I'm good.
Good. So, as you know, a few days ago you took the Symptom Checklist 90. Have you ever taken that so far?
I hadn't.
No. What were your thoughts and feelings about it?
At first I was like, wow, there's a lot of questions. But then when I started answering the questions, I had trouble kind of thinking about them and going, oh my gosh, what should my answer be? Because so many of them seemed like things that didn't bother me, that I was like, oh my gosh, most of them I don't really, there's no problem, I'm just answering 0. And I started to get nervous, so then I was like, should I try and answer more? You know, so that was
so it sounded like you weren't sure if your answers were right, so you're trying to make it so your answers maybe would have been right, or you thought there was a certain answer that they needed.
Right.
Okay.
Even though I was kind of like, but I don't get any.
Okay.
You know, have those.
Well, as you know, the Symptom Checklist 90 is designed to reflect psychological symptom patterns of community, medical, and psychiatric respondents. So I figured since you had come in and discussed, feeling anxious and overwhelmed and a little bit sad just about all the current changes in your life, I figured this would be the best test for you to take. Now, let's see. I want to just interpret your scores a little bit for you. Overall, your scores weren't clinically significant. So really that means that your scores fell below average or just about at the average range for clinical significance, meaning it's not a big deal, so most of the items on the test don't need to be discussed any further. Now, the first item scored was somatization, which reflects distress arising from the perception of bodily dysfunction, and complaints often focus on cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, and respiratory symptoms. For this dimension, you scored in the 31st percentile rank, meaning that little attention is needed in this area. So we don't really need to spend a whole lot of time covering it unless you have any kind of questions. Do you have any questions about that score? Do you think that seems correct, or?
I guess. That was a whole mouthful of words.
Sorry. Well, the next item was obsessive compulsive, which focuses more on thoughts and impulses and actions that are experienced as, unremitting or irresistible, and they're often unwanted. For this one, you scored in the 46th percentile, which means you scored just below average. The scores weren't right at the 50 percentile rank, which means that would be like exactly average. So this is just a little bit below, but still not considered enough to be significant. So how are you feeling about this so far? Okay. Next was interpersonal sensitivity, and this focuses more on feelings of inadequacy or inferiority, in particular to comparison to other people. And once again, your scores were only in the 38th percentile rank for this, so it doesn't need to really be something of concern for you. Depression was the next item measured, and initially you had reported feeling depression or symptoms of depression when you first came to see me, but your scores actually, after scoring it, they didn't reach clinical significance. So it's not really anything to be worried about. You can change, if you feel depressed, maybe just take some time to yourself and, whether it's read a book or take some time to go for a walk or something, just time for yourself and just to relax. Anxiety was the next dimension, which it focuses on stuff such as like nervousness, tension, and trembling, which is often included in the definition. Your scores were also once again low in this dimension. Do you have any questions for me so far? No. Okay. Let's see. So, tell me about what you feel so far about the scores.
Well, it sounds like from what you're saying, and I kind of got a sense of that, like I was saying, I was answering 0 to a lot, that it didn't sound like anything would be, very significant from how I was answering.
Okay, great. I'm going to continue with, there's a few other scores I just want to go over. Hostility was the next dimension, and this, reflects more of your thoughts and feelings or actions that are characteristic of the negative affect state, so meaning just you might have anger or something like that. But this score, you only reached the 16th percentile, which is very low, so really no further exploration into this is really needed. Often people with hostility have anger issues or need anger management or something, so I don't see you anywhere near that. Let's see, the next one was phobic anxiety, and it's defined as a persistent fear response. So you probably heard of people with, having a fear of spiders or something like that. But you scored in the 28th percentile, and this indicated as well that there was no clinically significant score in this. Paranoid ideation was the next one, and let's see, you scored you scored in the low score for this. And paranoid ideation represents paranoid behavior fundamentally as a disordered mode of thinking. So it's really just, having those thoughts and fears, whether someone's watching you or, something like that. Psychotism is similar, and that's the next dimension, but it represents the construct as a continuous dimension of human experience. And for this one, you also scored in the 28th percentile, so, no further, exploration needs to be done unless you think that, maybe this is of concern, maybe you want to retake the test, and if you think just something like that, then obviously you're welcome to do that. So do you have any questions for me so far?
No.
Okay, there's 3 more scores I just want to go over to you, and the first is the Global Severity Index, which is the best single indicator of your current level or depth of the disorder. It combines information concerning the number of symptoms reported with the intensity of the perceived distress. And for this score, you only scored in the 34th percentile. So once again, no significant concern, nothing to be worried about. The Positive Symptom Distress Index functions on a response style indicating whether the respondent was augmenting or attenuating symptomatic distress. And this score was very low for you. You only scored in the 14th percentile, which means it didn't reach any clinical caseness because, once again, it didn't hit that 50 percentile rank. Finally, the positive symptom total is simply just a reflection of the number of symptoms endorsed by the respondent regardless of the level of distress reported. You scored in the 30th percentile, meaning that, it's just below average again, so there's no significant concern. So how do you feel overall about all the scores I've described to you?
Well, from what you've said, I feel happy that nothing popped out as being, a major issue.
Okay.
So, I do think I'm glad that I had the opportunity to take the test, kind of, because it alerted me to, thinking about things differently, but,
Well, it's nice to hear that, you were happy to take this and it, kind of made you think a little bit about certain things, or, if anything ever were to come up, that it's always a possibility that you could take this again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So once again, overall your scores did not indicate any significant concerns. No scores reached clinical caseness. Out of the 90 items, only 14 were endorsed at a score greater than 0. So your results weren't really consistent with your initial intake, meaning that, yes, you were, you had feelings of sadness or, feeling overwhelmed. But that's typical because you are in grad school, you're a parent, you have 3 children, you're working, so it's balancing all this, so that's nothing to be concerned of. That's perfectly normal. But what I do want to recommend, like if you are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it might be a good idea to, take some time for yourself, whether it's exercise, whether it's reading a book, or just taking some time just for yourself. This could help you maybe just have alleviate those symptoms or those feelings a little bit. Okay? Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Anything about that? Does everything like that sound good?
It does.
Okay. Well, like I said, if you have any questions, just feel free to contact me, and